you guys were yelling at each other before we came on
Oh,
air, and I want you guys to go back yelling at each other.
I don't think she's going to immediately dismantle constitutional protections such as freedom of speech, right to a trial, and other issues, and encourage racial violence to the same extent that Trump is. I've lived in countries that have gone through civil conflict before, and I will tell you that the idea people have in their head that Trump will be so bad we'll have a revolution is simply wrong. Most people, despite what we all feel inside of ourselves, are fairly cowardly. And if somebody comes to your house with an armband and they beat up your children in front of you and they say, if you speak out again, we're going to come back and kill you, generally they don't speak out again. And I know people who have immigrated to this country from other parts of the world, they understand that. Most Americans don't understand that because we've been living in a kind of fantasy land meme bubble of Soma for the last 40 years with television and distractions and everything else. And I had put this piece tweeted out earlier yesterday by Arun Gupta, and it basically, you know, a lot of people seem to forget that after the U.S. fights major wars, there's a period of intense racial and political violence that usually follows it. If you go back to the end of the Civil War, you had the terrorism of the KKK versus African Americans in the South, as well as the massacres of the Plain Indians. If you go to the end of World War I, you had massacres of blacks and Chicanos, with thousands dead in 1919 and 1920, as well as massacres in the labor movement in Washington State. And they tried to do it again after World War II with racial problems in the South, and such as Mississippi, but thank God for Eisenhower, he deployed, you know, the 82nd Airborne to put a stop to it. And what people don't get is how possible violence is, real political violence in the society. And once it happens, you can't put it back together again. And so when Trump says, I'm going to eliminate the EPA and there's not going to be any controls at all on the environment, okay, that's great. We can be pissed off at him. But if we go 4 years pumping more shit into the environment, there is nothing we can do to save ourselves and our children from apocalypse, essentially.
And my rebut to that is that you are, I think, making a slight misinterpretation of the situation, which is that Trump is not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. And we keep doing what we've always done. We're going to get another Trump, and the next Trump might actually be competent, like Ted Cruz, because Donald Trump is an incompetent, and he will have extra scrutiny, and he won't be able to get any of the horrible stuff done.
Today, Brett Kavanaugh is officially confirmed to the Supreme Court.
Nomination of Neil M. Gorsuch of Colorado to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States is confirmed.
People think this is my theory, and we've been doing this thing. We've been doing this, and they've been putting up a worse candidate and a worse candidate. And this is we're living in what they call inverted totalitarianism right now. We live in an oligarchy right now. Not
arguing that point.
So to keep voting for more oligarchy, I'm afraid of what the next Trump's going to look like. And I'd rather vote for Jill Stein and try to build up a real lefty party in this country so we can counter. Hey, if she was polling at 5 or 10%, maybe Hillary Clinton would be trying to be more of a lefty instead of trying to get Jeb Bush voters, which is what suppresses the vote. Half the country still doesn't vote, West. Half the country. And did you know that things are worse than you think they are? Do you know 1 in 4 kids in America lives in poverty?
Yes.
Not poor.
Yes.
In poverty.
Yes.
You know half the country now is considered poor?
Yes.
Half. In
Yes.
the richest goddamn country. Wall Street setting records, profits, so are corporations, and you want us to vote for more of the same. People ain't going to do it, which is why she's fucking losing.
Here's the
Wes,
thing.
that's
I don't
why.
want you to vote for more of the same. With the climate mobilization, we're going to fucking force her to nationalize it and mobilize the country. And if we try and do that under Trump, we'll be killed. So there's a difference to me. It's the ability to move somebody to our position, somebody who respects law and who respects freedom of speech and isn't going to put us in a fucking labor camp. And that my brother-in-law, who is dark-skinned and lives in Phoenix, isn't going to be pulled out of his car by a bunch of fucking vigilantes in 4 months and shot in the fucking head. It matters, dude. It really fucking matters. And for people who think Donald Trump isn't dangerous, just listen to what the guy says. This is a guy trying out for a job interview. And that's when people are supposed to be on their best behavior. Now imagine what he's going to be like as president after he's already said, I'm not going to pay back the debt. We shouldn't have so much freedom of speech. We should be beating up opponents. What do you think is going to happen when he's elected? What do you think is going to happen to us when he's elected if we speak out against him?
So, I agree that when you say that it matters, I think you're implying that I don't think it matters. I think it matters a whole bunch, which is why I'm super serious about it and thinking about it 24 hours a day. And I, just like you, I think kind of agree with my position. I also am sympathetic to your position. This isn't easy.
No, and I'm sympathetic to yours.
Right.
This is a
I went to a Trump
very,
rally.
very hard
I went to
decision
a Trump rally.
for me because I do not support what she stands for. I do not support the president's system.
Here's my also another here. If you want to talk fear, I'll talk fear. So in 2 years, right now they think the Senate might flip right to Democrats, which is a great thing in a sense. But because of the way she's campaigning selfishly, it probably won't, right? So then we're stuck with Republican Congress, Senate, and Congress at least for the next 4 to 6 to 8, 10 years, right? And then we're going to get a Republican in 4 years. Nobody's going to reelect her. So long term, it's horrible. In 2 years, I mean, she's not going to get anything done anyway except right-wing stuff. Again, we've got to break the fever of neoliberalism because that's what creates Trump. And I know it's scary, and I'm not saying it's not scary. I'm saying that I'm betting he's an incompetent, and I'm betting that the American people will rise up.
I'm willing to bet you every mass murdering dictator in history is a fucking incompetent. That's why they kill people. That's why they have absolute control, because they're incompetent. Look at any general that's run a country. The country falls apart because generals don't know how to fucking fix the roads. Or get the electricity to go in. Look at Hitler, Mao, Stalin. Millions of people dead because they're incompetent. That's a fundamental thing about tyrants.
Yeah.
But all the evidence is that he's a huge incompetent who's destroying his own party right now, as predicted.
There is only one candidate who can beat Donald Trump, and that candidate is Hillary Clinton. And most often when you give despots and authoritarians and guys with fascist leanings at the very least, you give them power, they keep power, and they flex that power. Judges, voting rights, climate change. If nothing else, that's worth it right there. Donald Trump cannot be allowed to have those 3 levers of power.
There are